calaykum daawadayaal ku soo dhawaada Shaaciya TV maanta waxa inala joogta Nancy Day Hour oo inoo ah marti sharafta ka soo qayb gashay barnaamijkeena oo u sharaxan inay noqoto Council Women District 2 anigoo milgaana barnaamijkan inoo daadahaynayo Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
How are you doing today?
It's getting close to election day, so it's one of those things where it's a mix of I'm exhausted and I'm running on adrenaline.
So you have that energy.
Right.
Yeah, and we are very happy to see women running for the offices to represent us and really get to the core of a lot of different issues. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your current work and how your candidacy came about.
Okay, great. Well, I am not originally from Columbus. I chose Columbus. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I moved to Ohio to earn my master's degree. And I fell in love with Columbus, and I saw this city as a place where I could live my American dream. But I haven't just been living here, I've been serving here. By trade, I'm a United Methodist pastor, and I serve on the Hilltop. And the bulk of my ministry is all about community ministry and addressing the needs that are identified by the community. Like meeting with people, having conversations, meeting with stakeholders, partnering with stakeholders and other organizations to actually address needs.
You're working with the homeless and helping them out. What do you think is causing more people to become losing their home and becoming homeless and living on the street? What do you think is
There's
driving?
a variety of different reasons why people end up in homeless. Of course, the fact that rents are outrageous now and people can't afford them is one problem. And then you run into a lot of other problems where people were making the rent and they were doing okay, but then their car broke down and they need that car to get to work.
Yes.
And it was $2,000 in repairs. And so now what do? I need that car. So you pay to get your car fixed, but now you don't have your rent money. And you find yourself falling farther and farther behind. For a lot of people, there's just one major vehicle repair that can put them in a situation where they're vulnerable in their housing. Medical needs are another big one. A lot of people find themselves falling behind because of the expense of medications, medical care, particularly if it's a family member where you have to take time off from work to help them, to get them to doctors and whatnot. People sometimes lose their job because they're trying to take care of their loved one, and they have to miss a lot of time from work. And then you just fall farther and farther behind. And then we do have some people in some areas where they end up homeless because they are in active addiction, whether it's alcohol or narcotics. In some cases, it's what was prescribed by the doctors. In other cases, it is not. There's a whole variety. Not uncommon for someone to get injured on the job or playing sports and be given a medication that would help, but then the person became addicted to that. So you do have some people where that's the reason why they ended up being homeless. So there's no one solution. You have to have a variety of different programs available to help people move forward and get ahead.
Absolutely. I want to touch base with, I know your point of view about this issue 11, since we are on the subject right now and people losing their homes for higher rent or couldn't keep up the mortgage and inflation and all of that. How do you see issue 11? Will it help homeowners or will it really put them in the most vulnerable position?
It really depends on the homeowner. It really does. For some it will. Anytime you have any kind of levy on the ballot, you can end up with that issue. But it's also, what are the looking at, and what are the consequences if you don't pass that levy? You really have to, each individual really needs to weigh that out for themselves. But also looking,
but they are saying now no more taxes.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. There's no way in, because Ohio does not have a constitutional way of funding public education. Until the State House fixes things,
We're going to have to find a way to...
we have to find alternatives. And that's really, it's very, I'll put it nice, it's unfortunate that we have a Republican-controlled State House that consistently refuses to adequately address this. And so it's left to schools to come to the people to ask for money.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be in that position. But if they don't do it, the consequences are even worse, because if services are lost, then it hurts the children.
Question for you is issue 2. And you also still working and helping all of these people with addiction and, you know, dealing with it. Would it help our state? Because the word on the street is we want to be part of the big taxes that other states are enjoying.
The others
to
and
build.
so our money is going out of state, and they're getting the tax dollars. And it's because I work in the addiction space, I can never say, yes, please go ahead and use a narcotic or an alcohol. But both sides of this argument have very valid points. And it's very challenging to say, well, you know, yes, there are negative consequences for using some substances. Not everybody encounters those, but some people do.
Yeah.
There are benefits to have, you know, making this illegal, and because it didn't always used to be against the law. We know that there were racist reasons why marijuana is against the law, and so why don't we treat it like alcohol and have those controls? And I think the controls are the real important thing on this issue, is making sure that there are controls. This is not a constitutional amendment, though. So if it is passed, the state legislature can still go in and change things.
How would you deal with issues that can really challenge the faith, one's faith, to do the greater good for the majority? How would you deal with such issues? When you're up there, when you get elected, how would you deal with those kind of issues?
Well, done properly, you use your faith as a lens through which you look at things. But this is the United States, and we have a constitution, and we have laws, and those are the things that we abide by.
Yes.
I know people say that this is a Christian nation, and I've got news for you folks, and I say this as a pastor, we actually are not. We're a nation that claims to be a Christian nation. There are so many faith traditions in the United States, even within Christianity. So I know there are some who feel that they have, if they're elected, they get to impose their religious beliefs. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You've got to go by the Constitution. And you've got to look at what's the greater good for the people. Will there be sometimes things that are contrary to my faith tradition? You betcha. And I will go, and as an elected official who swears to abide by the Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Ohio, that is the top priority. That is what you go through.
The other question I really want to address with you is how would you help small business owners? I remember that you also studied business.
Yeah,
so we need to save the small guys.
I do. It was a long time ago, but I do have a Bachelor of Science in Business Management.
Yeah.
City of Columbus is actually developing a lot of small business initiatives that are, and quite a few of them are specifically for people of color and for women, to help them get started. And Nick Bankston is the person who heads that particular committee. Yeah. And there's some real exciting stuff that's getting rolled out, such as in particular areas, like subsidies for, helping for rent, because those when you first get started, those first few months, and programs just going to help. You're on such a you watch such a tightrope when you're at small business. The tiniest little thing can
you come
and stuff. So they're working on these programs to kind of help shore up these small minority and female-owned businesses that are just getting started. And so that is going to be rolling out here pretty soon. But we need a lot more of those, and ones focused on particular parts of town, because starting a small business downtown is going to be a little different than starting a small business on the hilltop or in Linden, those areas. So I'm excited that we'll have an opportunity to look at ways that we can, you know, kind of customize, tailor them for different neighborhoods. I know one of the challenges for small businesses is even just finding commercial space to rent, because we've discovered that there, along with all these individuals who buy up residential properties and then sit on them and don't rent them or sell them because they're speculators, people have been doing that with commercial real estate as well. And I talked to a young African-American woman at a Chamber of Commerce event, and she was saying that she's been looking for 6 months for a space for her business, and she wanted to put it on the west side, and she would approach these owners of these commercial spaces, and they would say, well, I'm planning on leaving it vacant for the next several years.
Oh my goodness. What? That's not
So,
productive.
right. And so it's like, oh, we need to have some conversations with these people, because they're hurting the community.
And they can't afford it, and they are really hurting the community.
Right, they're hurting the communities. You have these people who want to start a business, and because they've been doing it out of their garage or whatever, they have these great ideas. And then you have somebody getting in the way because they're a speculator on real estate. So yeah, helping with that commercial space shortage, and how we can, you know, hopefully use some leverage with, you know.
This issue has been pressing all over America, and it's not just to us alone. Gun violence and heavy guns. What's your take on that? And
Yeah, I grew up in a rural area. I'll be honest, everybody owned guns. We did.
like
But
Texas,
we had a
yeah.
But we had a different attitude about them.
Yes.
You had to take the hunter training course when
Yes.
you were, you know, a certain age, and people were taught, you know, respect, and that this is a weapon that is designed to kill people, and so there was a different attitude about them. Whereas now there's an attitude of that it's all about, you know, your ego, and, you know, it's your first line of defense is, you know, pull a gun.
Oh man.
And I think a lot of that is you have a lot of people who have a sense of hopelessness. They're disconnected from healthy community, and people lack. A lot of people just lack anger management skills and impulse control.
Also, mental illness, like you said,
So,
that can
you know,
trigger them.
That can trigger, and there can be environmental reasons why that happens. If you have been exposed to lead poisoning as a child, that can create that lack of impulse control. Other health issues can impact impulse control. We need to have people be willing to admit that they lack impulse control, that they have an anger management problem. Help is available for that. There's no shame in getting help for issues, you know, emotional issues, psychological issues.
Yes.
Those are just health issues.
Yes.
It's not different, mind, body, it's a health issue. And unfortunately, there just are some people who think it's cool to brandish firearms, to run around and act that way. And unfortunately, it's leading to people being killed. The majority of crime in Columbus is committed by males aged 14 to 25, 26. The majority of victims, same age range. It's young men. Why are our young men so angry? And some of them are out of control. And I think a lot of that is, you know, there's the impulse control issues, but also that sense of hopelessness.
Once you get to your office and you get elected, What's in your agenda first?
We do not know what our committee assignments will be yet. And so that does have an impact on what you work on.
Okay.
And so that will, it's like, who knows what I'll be, what they'll trust me to be in charge of. Actually, the first thing I want to do, though, is actually have more town hall meetings throughout Columbus to hear directly from people as to what their top priorities are. Because it's never helpful if anybody goes in and says, I know how to fix everything. I know what everybody needs. We don't. So having those town hall meetings, and here's the important thing, I need people to show up for them and participate in the dialogue. Because quite often I've seen that where council has had like a community meeting like that, and there's only a handful of people who show up, and they're the same people who show up at all of those. We need more regular people to show up, and with something tangible. This is an issue for me. I'd really like to see this. Hey, we could really use such and such, and hey, there's this pothole that's been on the corner of such and such for 3 months now.
Yeah.
And we need that taken care of. To come forward and talk about those things, because that's really where the starting point is of finding out. Because hey, my favorite pet project could turn out that other people didn't care about, and so then what good would it do? So definitely having those town hall meetings, throughout. And not just, some would be neighborhoods, but also with our different New American communities, the different neighborhood communities, the varieties, so that people can feel comfortable coming forward and talking about what it is in particular that they need. If I'm elected, I do have my staff selected.
Yay.
And yes, but it's contingent upon if I am elected, and my administrative assistant will be a young Somali woman.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yes. So she is hired contingent upon my being elected. Because I felt that it was the Somali community has been a great supporter of me through my campaign.
Yes.
And we have very few Somali employees in City Hall. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity that the Somali community could have someone who understands their culture at City Hall that they could contact and feel comfortable with. So excited, looking forward to that.
That's amazing. You guys, that's breaking news, by the way. Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks.
And we can't wait any minute now for you to be resting a little bit and getting back to work for doing what you love to do. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming to Shaiya TV today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun conversation.
Thank you so much.
I had a great time. Thank you.
And that will be all, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much. And get out and vote, right?
Yes, get out and vote.
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes.